First at 9 this Sunday, the 14th of July 2024. Walking the tightrope, Sri Lanka can spur Indo-Chinese trade opportunities, asserts State Minister of Foreign Affairs.
We want to make sure that no country uses Sri Lanka in order to threaten India's security.
Further claims that no nation will use Sri Lanka to threaten India.
Perhaps maybe even Sri Lanka can be an opportunity for these two big countries to trade.
Bipartisanship, President Ranil Wickremesinghe calls on all parties to unite in developing Sri Lanka. Beyond the horizon, experts discuss Sri Lanka's road to economic prosperity post-debt restructuring.
ඔබේ විශ්වාසය දෙනු සෙන්සුරයින් දැන් ළඟමැති ෆාමසියෙන් ලබාගත හැක.
This is Ada Derana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to Ada Derana First at 9. I'm Aditya Singh joining you live with the latest in Sri Lanka and around the world. Now taking you straight to your top story this evening, State Minister of Foreign Affairs Tharaka Balasurya highlights that India should not see China as an enemy and went on to add that he sees Sri Lanka as a potential link in creating Indo-Chinese trade opportunities. Speaking at an interview with WION, State Minister Balasurya said Sri Lanka is committed to ensure no nation will use Sri Lanka to threaten India's security.
Another issue that maybe Sri Lanka and India might not see eye to eye, one is the visit of the Chinese vessels, which obviously is worry for New Delhi regarding the security in the region, its own security in the region. So what has been the Sri Lankan view about the visits of the Chinese vessels and how have you assured this with New Delhi?
You mean the research
Vessels or any kind of major interaction is seen with a security dimension here in New Delhi?
Well, as you are aware that there's a moratorium which is in place till the end of the year, and at the end of the year we will review our position, but we are also very interested in developing our own capacity. So I think once we develop our own capacity as a sovereign country, then we can do the research ourselves. So this, in terms of Sri Lanka's issues, is not a major priority. Of course, we have time and over again stated that we are very interested in the India's security interest. We want to make sure that no country uses Sri Lanka in order to threaten India's security, and we have given that assurance and towards that. But we will also want to trade with other countries. I don't think that India should view China as an enemy. I think perhaps India can view China as a competitor. Certainly India does far more trade with China than Sri Lanka does with China. I think India's trade with China is about 140 billion, whereas Sri Lanka's trade with China is a fraction of that. So perhaps maybe even Sri Lanka can be an opportunity for these two big countries to trade.
Crunchy goodness for hunger on the go.
President Ranil Wickremesinghe invites both the JVP and the SJB to unite together with the United National Party in developing the country. Addressing a gathering today, the head of state highlighted that he does not intend to protect the Rajapakshas and went on to say that the only president he has ever protected was former President Ranasinghe Premadasa. Meanwhile, speaking at the same event, Member of Parliament of the SLPP, Mahindananda Alutgamage, said that Ranil Wickremesinghe is the only leader who is capable of developing Sri Lanka.
The second rally of the Together We Win series of public rallies was held today in Kandy under the patronage of President Ranil Wickremesinghe. The event saw the attendance of several politicians from both the United National Party and the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna.
During the past week, we saw that both the SJB and the NPP attempted to hamper the president's plan to develop the country by launching strikes across the country, inconveniencing both the public and the government. However, all strikes came to a complete stop as soon as the warning notices were issued in that regard. Recently, I saw JVPs Vasantha Samarasinghe and KD Lalkantha assuring that they have decided to stop the ongoing strike actions. The only expectations of the SLPP and the UNP and the SLFP is to appoint Ranil Wickremesinghe as the president of this country.
President Ranil Wickremesinghe also joined the public rally in Kandy.
අතිගරු ජනාධිපති රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහ මැතිතුමන්ගේ මහනුවර සම්ප්‍රාප්තිය
ජනාධිපතිතුමනි ඔබතුමාගේ අපි ඔබතුමාගේ මේ වේදිකාවට එන විශේෂ කාරණා කීපයක් තියෙනවා. ඒ පළවෙනි දේ තමයි ඔබතුමාට තියෙන දැනුම. දෙවෙනි එක ඔබතුමාගේ තියෙන පරිණතභාවය. තුන්වෙනි එක ඔබතුමාට ජාත්‍යන්තරයේ තියෙන සහයෝගය. ඔබතුමාගේ විශේෂ අපි ගරු කරන ගතියක් තියෙනවා. ඔබතුමා ගන්න ඍජු තීරණ ජනාධිපතිතුමනි. අපි ඔබතුමාට විරුද්ධව හිටියේ. අපිට මේ වෙලාවේ දේශපාලනයක් වැඩක් නැහැ. අපිට ජීවත් වෙන්න රටක් තියෙන්න ඕනේ. ඒ රට හදන්න පුළුවන්. අද මේ රටේ ඉන්න දේශපාලඥයන්ගෙන් එකම එක නායකයා රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහ මැතිතුමා පමණයි කියලා අපි අද තීරණය කළා ඉවරයි.
මම මේ රට බාරගත්තේ
I assumed duties when the country was facing numerous difficulties. The SLPP supported me in this journey. I don't want to protect the Rajapakshas. I only defended one president my entire life. That was Ranasinghe Premadasa. I was the only one who stood with him when the UNP went against former President Ranasinghe Premadasa. I have never protected anyone else. I request all UNPers to join us in developing this country. Some say that we have to fight against corruption. I am ready to unite with the SJB to develop this country and fight against corruption. However, I have one condition. My only condition for aligning myself with the SJB is that the opposition leader has to reveal how he received funds to finance his donation to all those schools. If Sanjeewa Premadasa is ready to support the development of this country, I will reoffer his United National Party membership. Therefore, let's unite together to move forward in this journey. I invite both the JVP and the SJB to unite with us to develop this country and prevent it from collapsing once again.
සජබටත් ආරාධනා කරනවා ජනතා විමුක්ති පෙරමුණටත් ආරාධනා කරනවා අපි ඔක්කොම එකතු වෙලා ඒ ගමන යන්න කියලා.
Horizon Campus 2024 intake. Register now.
Now, meanwhile, Minister of Urban Development President Ranatunga emphasizes that it was the SLPP that provided the strength for President Ranil Wickremesinghe to guide the country through the economic crisis. He made those remarks while attending a meeting of the SLPP in Dewlapitia today.
Sri Lanka Opposition Leader conference of the Dewlapitia electorate was held today, garnering the participation of several key members of the party.
Mahinda Rajapaksa මැතිතුමත්
While believing that electing former President Mahinda Rajapaksa and Gotabaya Rajapaksa were the right decisions to take, I also believe that the decision to elect President Ranil Wickremesinghe with a majority in Parliament was the right decision to take. It was the SLPP that provided President Ranil Wickremesinghe with the strength to lead the country out of the crisis. We want to emphasize that it was the SLPP that navigated the country through this crisis.
අපි කියන එක අපි වගකීමෙන් මේ වේදිකාව තුල ඉඳගෙන කියනවා අපේ අම්මේ තාත්තේ.
අපි වගකීමකින් කියනවා
I confidently assert that the SLPP candidate will win the upcoming presidential election. Currently, there are concerns surrounding presidential elections. Some discuss how the 19th amendment was passed only after the 20th and the 21st amendments and after two presidents had taken office. As the presidential elections approach, there is debate about whether the term is 5 or 6 years, while the Election Commission prepares to announce the dates. We oppose any postponement of the elections.
පහද හයද කියන මතක් වෙලා තියෙන්නේ මැතිවරණ කොමසාරිස්ට බලය යන්න ඕන මෙන්න තියෙන්නේ.
Star Dishwasher Dali Tel Indul Pahasuwen Sede. Star Dishwasher Magic Tub එක.
Crunchy goodness for hunger on the go.
Now, leader of the National Peoples Power Andrakumaran emphasizes that the growth of his party has destabilized several other political parties, including the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna and the Samagi Jana Balawegaya. Meanwhile, parliamentarian of the National Peoples Power Vijith Rohana says Sri Lanka's youth is responsible to choose a set of leaders capable of developing the nation.
The Gampaha Youth Rally of the National Peoples Power was held today in Minuwangoda under the patronage of party leader Anurakumara Disanayaka.
මේ 76 වසරක් තිස්සේ මේ රට මේ අගාධයට තල්ලු කරලා දාපු මේ පාලකයන්ව පන්නාලා දාලා මේ රට ගොඩනගන්න පුළුවන් නව පාලනයක් බිහි කිරීමේ අභියෝගය ඔබේ උරමත පැවරිලා තියෙනවා. ඒකට වැඩි ඈතක් නැහැ. හරියටම ගත්තොත් තව පෝය 3යි. මේ හොරා කාපු පාලකයෝ හොරා ඛණ්ඩම ඒගොල්ලෝ 3ට 4ට බෙදිලා. පොහොට්ටුවේ කෑල්ලක් දෙවුලපිටියේ, තව කෑල්ලක් බදුල්ලේද, තව කෑල්ලක් මහනුවර, පුතානෝගේ පක්ෂයේ සභාපති පොන්සේක මහත්තයව පක්ෂයෙන් අයින් කරලා දැන් අඩු කියනවා. රාජිත එලවන්න නැතුව මිනිහා එලෙව්වා වගේ පේන්න තියෙනවා. පරාජය අඳෝනාවේ විලාපේ අපිට ඇහෙනවා.
රනිල් මහින්ද දිනේෂ් ඒ ඉන්න කඳවුරට මේ වෙනස ඇති කරන්න පුළුවන්.
Can the political camp which comprises Ranil, Mahinda and Dinesh implement these changes? They are nothing but old and tarnished goods. Is Sajid capable of making this change? I think there is no point in talking about him. Party lines are so blurred at the moment. We are unable to identify where Ranil and Sajid stand. President Ranatunga supported Basil Rajapaksa. However, now people are confused whether President supports Ranil or Sajid. Who is responsible for this crisis? It is the National Peoples Power's growth which created this political crisis.
Now, President Ranil Wickremesinghe expressed his shock over the failed attempt on former US President Donald Trump's life yesterday and claims that he is relieved to know that the former US President's safety is ensured. The head of state further expressed that Sri Lankans too have gone through a violent political history and urged all to conform to the laws protecting democracy. Former US President Donald Trump became the target of an assassination attempt yesterday at a Pennsylvania rally days before he was to accept the Republican nomination for a third time. Former US President Trump was shot in the right ear and was taken out of the stage by the Secret Service. In the moments of the shooting, he emerged and pumped his fist in the air, appearing to mouth the words, "Fight, fight, fight." The suspected shooter, who attacked from an elevated position outside the rally venue at a farm show in Butler, Pennsylvania, was shot dead at the scene by a US Secret Service sniper. In a later FBI statement, the deceased suspect was identified as Thomas Matthew Crooks, a 20-year-old resident of Bethel Park, Pennsylvania. The FBI say they are treating the incident as an assassination attempt on the former Republican president and added that the incident is an active and ongoing investigation. After the incident, former President Trump released a statement on social media platform Truth, stating that he is thankful for the US Secret Service and all of the law enforcement for their swift response on the assassination attempt that took place in Pennsylvania. He described how he faced the incident, and he also expressed grief for the attendee who was shot at the rally as well as the ones who were wounded during the incident. As political leaders in the US and world leaders came together to condemn the violent incident, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi and French President Emmanuel Macron condemned the assassination attempt, emphasizing how global democracy has come under attack by violence. Former President Trump's presidential election rival, US President Joe Biden, expressed his gratitude knowing that Trump is safe and thanked the US Secret Service. President Biden further expressed that there is no place for violence in America and called for national unity to condemn the violent action. In the meantime, President Ranil Wickremesinghe expressed shock over the assassination attempt on social media platform X, stating that he is relieved to know that the former US president is safe. The president further stated that Sri Lankans have been at the receiving end of such violence in politics and urged the adherence of law protecting democracy. Now, Samaga Jana Balawegaya parliamentarian Eran Wickremaratne stresses that the government should be accountable for the security of Opposition Leader Sanjeewa Premadasa while urging the government to provide necessary security for the SJB's presidential candidate. Commenting regarding the matter at a press briefing today, Wickremaratne condemned the assassination attempt on ex-US President as an attack on democracy and said that politicians should step away from engaging in such politics. With that, let's take a look at some of the latest in the political front today.
The
first news you should have heard this morning must be the story on the assassination attempt on the US presidential candidate, former President Donald Trump, who is also regarded as their opposition leader. He was injured during the incident. I urge the government to prioritize the security of opposition leader Sanjeewa Premadasa and take full responsibility for it. We are a democratic country where politics are conducted through the mandate of the people, not with weapons.
දැන් අපේ අරමුණ සතුටු දෙයක්. අපි දැන් සතුටු දෙයක් හදන්න මොකද්ද පාවිච්චි කරන මෙවලක්. පළවෙනි මෙවලම තමයි ව්‍යවසායකත්ව රාජ්‍යය. රාජ්‍යයේ තුලට ව්‍යවසායකත්වයේ කාන්දු කිරීම එතෙක් මෙතෙක් මේ රටේ වෙලා නැති ඉඳ තමයි ආණ්ඩුව පාඩු ලබන්න පටන් ගත්තේ. පාඩු ලබල නිකන් හිටියද? නෑ 2022 වෙනකොට බංකොලොත් වෙලත් ගියා. ව්‍යවසායකත්ව මනසක් නැති නිසා.
පාර්ලිමේන්තුව ගිනි තියන්න එනකොට
When individuals attempted to set fire to the parliament, President Ranil Wickremesinghe fearlessly took the necessary decisions. This courage enables us to stand on this political stage and speak freely today. Otherwise, we might not have been alive today. Therefore, the people will judge who possesses fearlessness in the upcoming election.
අදින් පටන් ගත්තු මේ ඉදිරි සති කීපය තුලදී එක දිගටම ගම්මට්ටමින් සෑම කොට්ටාසයකටම ගමන් කරමින් රටේ ජනතාව දැනුවත් කරමින් සර්වජන බලය වටා ජනතාව කේන්ද්‍ර කර ගන්න වැඩපිළිවෙල අකණ්ඩව ක්‍රියාත්මක කිරීමට නියමිතයි.
Now, meanwhile, Opposition Leader Sanjeewa Premadasa states that while focusing on creating a curriculum incorporating the latest trends in education, an English-centric education system with modern technology must be set up to protect Sri Lanka's free education system. Speaking at the 311th Sakvila program in Kahahena, he emphasized on the importance of having aesthetics in Sri Lanka's education, which helps build a humanistic and sensitive society.
The 311th edition of the Sakvila program was held at Buralagoda Mahavidyalaya in Kahahena under the patronage of Opposition Leader Sanjeewa Premadasa.
Through new ideas, innovations and inventions, we must commit ourselves to implement a knowledge-centric nation and ensure knowledge-centric growth. We should establish a curriculum that incorporates the trends in education. I am definitely not saying that aesthetic subjects are unnecessary. Some people say that aesthetics must be removed. That is wrong. Aesthetic subjects are specially needed to create a humanistic and sensitive generation. To protect free education, I suggest that we should establish an English-centric education system with modern technology.
නූතනවාදී තාක්ෂණයෙන් හෙබි ඉංග්‍රීසි භාෂා කේන්ද්‍රීය අලුත් අධ්‍යාපනයකට අපි මුල පුරමුයි කියලා මම යෝජනා කරනවා.
And now in your weather news, issuing an amber advisory for strong winds and rough seas, the Natural Hazards Early Warning Centre of the Meteorological Department forecasts that sea areas off the coasts extending from Kankasanture to Putlam via Mana and from Hambantota to Puthuville will be rough at times with strong gusty winds up to 60 to 65 kilometers per hour. As a result, the Met Department requests the naval and fishing communities to remain vigilant. Meanwhile, the Met Department also anticipated fairly heavy downpours above 75 millimeters in western, Sabaragamu and northwestern provinces and in the Kandy, Norelia, Gaul and Matra districts tomorrow. Further strong winds of about 50 to 55 kilometers per hour can be expected at times over the western slopes of the Central Hills and in the northern, north central and northwestern provinces and in the Trincomalee and Hambantota districts. Welcome back. Now, the research director of the Colombo-based think tank Verite Research, Subhashini Abesinghe, asserts that Sri Lanka cannot achieve its goal of becoming a global or regional logistics hub if the island nation continues to prioritize only local partners in the sector. She made those remarks during a recent panel discussion titled Sri Lanka's Debt Restructuring Outcome and its Impact on Economic Diplomacy and Foreign Policy, organized by the Lakshman Kadragamar Institute in Colombo. In addition, Talal Rafi, expert member of the World Economic Forum, emphasized the necessity for Sri Lanka to restructure state-owned enterprises with commercial interests. He also highlighted the importance of redirecting funds towards developing better human capital to support the country.
We have some white elephant institutions like Sri Lankan Airline and all other institutions. So without restructuring such kind of organization, how far we are going to be successful?
Yes, for sure, the big three we have to restructure, and the airline is one, because we can't carry these losses without the relevant revenue. So we can't carry these just because of some nostalgia or some union or some issue. If we introduce private companies into, say, the energy sector, what we really need is an independent competition. So there is no price fixing, that the consumer will benefit, the quality is maintained. That bit I don't see yet. You need domestic competition policy and a regulator if you open these things up.
So restructuring must have political consensus, otherwise it will never work. If you take the recent customs work rule and the strike, and even the strike that was launched yesterday, I thought opposition will criticize that, but they didn't. I would have preferred opposition parties criticizing the customs strike. Obviously launched it, but did it, but at least they should have done it. Then the customs know that there's political consensus against their strike. The striking trade unions know there's a wildcat strike. Without bringing everyone together, we will never achieve this growth we are talking of. The public sector needs a deep restructuring. I don't think in our view Sri Lankan can be sold to anyone as Sri Lankan Airlines. What we need to sell is a ground handling facility. So we cannot compete on the volume. So
as a nation, when we are at this stage, one thing we need is spending on education. That is what human capital will get us forward. The other thing is that if you look at universities, we rank very high when it comes to humanitarian studies. I'm not putting it down. it's a good field, but the crucial STEM education, that's quite low. The very large state sector of 1.5 million, it of course has to be reduced gradually over time, but there is also a need to shift it elsewhere. Restructuring and privatization is absolutely essential when it comes to SOEs with commercial interests.
No, I am personally a believer that this country's economic problems can be sorted out with our location properly getting into logistics and shipping. What is the policy that we are making a big mistake?
I think one of the problems with our aspiration, that gap I see in our aspiration to be a regional or a global hub, and how we want to do it. So we seem to want to do it with local talent, local players, and we are constantly scared of getting global players. You can never have a regional or a global hub unless you have the best in the world having operations in Colombo. That's how Singapore markets its location. But Sri Lankans forever, whether it's a terminal, whether it's a warehouse, whether it's a shipping agency, we are constantly scared of allowing this presence of global players. And until the day we are willing to do that, we will not succeed as a regional hub in the region. On the geopolitics and how can we manage geopolitics, I think I always say procurement reforms and competitive bidding is an important way for us to navigate geopolitical tensions, because Sri Lanka is in a very sensitive geographical location, and we are seeing increasing tensions between major powers playing out in the Indian Ocean. But we want to work with India, China, USA, Japan, South Korea, everyone. How do you do that? You just say, look, I am looking at my national interest. I am not doing anything under the table without any transparency. I am going to call for proposals. I'm going to go for international competitive bidding. And this is a very transparent process. If it's a Chinese firm, Indian firm, whatever firm that wins, nobody can complain because Sri Lanka has followed due process. Right now, we are in this place because we've gone through unsolicited proposals, government to government deals, without very little transparency. That makes the people and the international community doubt whether this was done in the right way with the national.
Now in other local business news, the European Union delegation to Sri Lanka and the Maldives in a statement announced that it will be backing Sri Lanka's newly established Department of Cinnamon Development through the Export Agriculture in Sri Lanka project. The statement noted that the EU will bring in the expertise of the International Finance Corporation to promote Ceylon cinnamon exports to higher value markets by focusing on quality improvement efforts. The project is expected to support the implementation and enforcement of quality, build the capacity of field officers and farm organizations, and provide technology. The recently inaugurated department aims to boost cinnamon output, leveraging advanced techniques and support systems to elevate the industry. Sri Lanka welcomed 67,002 tourists in the month of July during the period spanning from the 1st to the 11th of July 2024. The accumulated number of tourist arrivals to the island this year up until the 11th of July stands at a staggering 1,077,251. 43,083 tourists arrived in Sri Lanka during the first week of July, while 23,919 arrivals were recorded during the first 4 days of the second week of July. Tourist arrivals crossed 140,000 during July last year. A total of 19,543 Indian tourists visited up until the 11th, corresponding to 29.2%, marking a majority of tourist arrivals recorded from India. Significant numbers of tourist arrivals were also recorded from the United Kingdom, China, Germany, Australia, France, the Netherlands, Switzerland, Canada, and the United States. And now let's take a look at some corporate news in brief.
Our Group of Hospitals inked an agreement with the National Insurance Trust Fund or NITF to provide comprehensive concessions to all government employees through the Agrahara Medical Insurance Scheme. The Memorandum of Understanding was signed by Director and Group CEO of Asri Hospitals, Dr. Manjula Karunaratne, and CEO of NITF, Gamani and Leonarachi, during a ceremony held recently. The enduring partnership aims to offer tangible healthcare benefits and the renowned comprehensive healthcare services offered by Asri Hospitals to all NITF Agrahara members. Meanwhile, Capital Metals plc, a mineral sands company nearing the development stage of its high-grade Eastern Minerals project in Sri Lanka, has announced that it has received all necessary approvals to begin its new drilling program. The initiative aims to significantly expand the project's resource base and refine the initial mining area. The company states resource extension through deeper air core drilling down to the alluvial basement and laterally to the west outside the current mineral resource estimate, targeting the identified paleo beach and dune formations on the coastal plain, is a key objective of the initiative. The new program anticipates reaching depths of around 10 meters, uncovering significant additional resources. In other corporate news, Asia Capital plc announced the appointment of Y. Kanagasabhe as an independent non-executive director as well as the chairman of the company with effect from the 11th of June 2024. The company's corporate disclosure noted that Kanagasabhe does not hold any shares of the company as of to date.
That's all the news we have for you tonight. Thank you. Have a great night.